Nicola Sturgeon has been warned that Scottish people and businesses will move if the country becomes independent, according to George Galloway. Nicola Sturgeon's dreams of an independent Scotland have been torn apart by George Galloway, who explained how the move would be damaging to the public. He claimed Scots would move out of the country if Scotland left the UK. It comes as Prime Minister Boris Johnson has denied SNP a second vote on the referendum for Scottish independence. Speaking to Express, Mr. Galloway said, "The carnage that would have to be wreaked on the public sphere would be extraordinarily damaging. There would be a flight of capital, there would be a flight of people, especially the best-earning people. It's a disastrous strategy. Don't get me started on how the Scottish people would feel if they did join the European Union and huge numbers of workers and cheap labour began arriving from Eastern Europe." It comes after Scottish Finance Secretary Kate Forbes received a vicious backlash online after she defended Ms Sturgeon's plans for an independent Scotland. SNP MSP Kate Forbes argued Scotland's large deficit was not a reason for it not to become independent, as she highlighted independent countries with huge deficits during the coronavirus pandemic. But ITV presenter Peter McMahon noted an independent Scotland would take a share of the UK's deficit, meaning the country would have a higher deficit than Britain. Twitter users have hit out at the Finance Secretary for comparing Scotland's deficit to other countries during a global pandemic. Speaking to ITV's Representing Border, Ms. Forbes said, "Across the world countries operate with deficits. We have seen unprecedented borrowing from countries around the world. Small and large countries including the UK government, whose deficit is set to rise to £372 billion this year. I don't see any of those countries suddenly deciding that they no longer want to be independent. The difference between them and Scotland is they have the powers and levers to manage a deficit. Those are powers that we could use to invest in the economy and to manage our public finances far more sustainably than they are currently managed under this arrangement." Mr. McMahon said, "If Scotland were independent, it would take a share of that UK deficit and it would add to the deficit we know it has. The deficit of an independent Scotland would be even higher than a UK deficit." Her comments have since sparked a backlash on Twitter. One user wrote, "Not convinced that equating Scotland's deficit during ordinary times with deficits of other countries during the economic crisis created by an unprecedented global pandemic is that solid an argument." Another added, "Good God. Pretty troubling that she doesn't understand the basics of the financial situation facing Scotland."